Hey there, ghostly guys and gals. It's Ghost here, and welcome to part 4 of the story of my life. So, in the last part, we talked about the end of my, middle school and my beginning. I was saying I was gonna go on to high school at this private Catholic all boys school. Um, and I talked about, stuff with Angie and kind of how that fizzled out. Well, a little bit. I'll get into that a bit more in this video, but yeah. So where we left off is, I'm going into high school, and I kind of had a hard time adjusting. Thankfully I had a few friends, or at least classmates from my old school that came with me to this new school. So I had a few the foundations of a social group. Eventually, I kind of left them, and I formed a new social kind of group. I got a really close friend eventually that I was good friends with for my first 2 years in high school. But yeah, so I went to high school, and Angie obviously wasn't there. But eighth grade was I was still kind of thinking, oh, I'm gonna find some way to reconnect with her eventually, and yeah. But eighth grade was a pretty tough year, at least academically. Socially, it was good. I kind of got my friend group, found my niche or whatever, and it was good. But academics were tough. I didn't do too good in school and stuff, and or at least not what my mom would want. Anyway, I wasn't doing bad. I mean, I think I did. Maybe I got a D once that year, but the lowest things I were getting were C's and stuff. But I was just having a lot of trouble with some classes, and I was having a lot of trouble with English and my science class. But usually I was doing fine in English for the first half of the year, but the second half of the year it got harder for some reason, and I was just really bad at it that year or that time. So eighth grade was a pretty tough year for me, but compared to a lot of the other years I've had in my life, and even just in high school, it was I look back at it, I was like, oh, it wasn't that bad. I mean, in the moment, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm stressed about all this academic stuff and all this, but it was looking back on it, it was not as bad, maybe as some other stuff. So I don't really have much to say about eighth grade. Not much happened aside from the academic stuff. That was kind of hard, but yeah. I moved on to ninth grade, and ninth grade was a really good year. I did great in my academics. I didn't even get any C's that year. It was B's. I mean, I even got straight A's for a quarter or something. So that's I never got straight A's again in high school. So yeah, that's pretty good. Um, and my I feel like I was even coming more into my own with my little friend group, and I had this friend, and we were hanging out all the time, and it was pretty great. We weren't hanging outside of school, but we were hanging out a lot, in school, of course. And we had a bunch of classes together, so that's why we kind of became friends in the first place. And he had some other friends that he kind of became friends with, so I kind of became a friend with them via him. And yeah, so everything was really good in ninth grade. But ninth grade was also the year that I decided to kind of ditch Angie, I guess. We weren't together, obviously, but it was more I was like, this isn't going anywhere. I'm never what am I supposed to do? Just reach out to her now and be like, hey, I mean, I guess I'm a lot more confident. Well, confident. I'm more willing to take risks when it comes to girls nowadays. But back then, I was so scared of maybe being ridiculed or whatever, and I was just I can't talk to her and ask to hang out, or go for a walk or whatever. Even though I said, we lived very close to each other, so I was it was completely possible. I had her social media. We lived close together. We could have really just I don't think she probably wouldn't have liked me. I don't think she would have ever developed a thing for me. But I mean, who knows? I could have probably done something, but I was way too scared. I was never gonna do that, and I was just basically what am I supposed to do? There's nothing I can do. So I just kind of was I'm just gonna let Angie go. Like, I still think she's pretty. I still think she's a great girl, and I would love to date her. But what am I supposed to do? I'm just some stupid high school student. Don't have any money. No, all this stuff. And I was just like, oh well. And she comes back later, as I said. But for the next few years, anyway, I was just kind of like, okay, Angie, this is it. Oh well. So yeah, that was eighth. Like the first 2 years of my high school, were pretty smooth sailing. I mean, like I said, I had some problems with academics in eighth grade. But aside from that, and compared to what was going to come the next year and the year after that, high school was pretty easy for me at first. I was like, yeah, having a okay time. Life isn't so bad. And then 10th grade came around, and that's when things really, really started to get bad, and I really started to like descend into these mental health issues, officially, at least in regards to diagnoses, and stuff, and all that. So, yeah, 10th grade started out just like any other year, I guess, so far in high school, but the problem was that friend I told you about, like who I got really close to in eighth grade, and we were like, pretty good friends in eighth and ninth grade. He decided that he got into his head that he was like, I want to be popular or whatever. So I mean, I never cared about that, but he did for whatever reason. He just started to care about that. So he decided he wanted to go hang out with all these, popular kids and stuff, and you know, like he also like he always used to bring his lunch to school, and like he would sit with us, like me and a few other kids in the courtyard. At my school, and a lot of kids would eat lunch in the courtyard. There was like a student commons area where people would eat, and there was also like a cafeteria where like there would be school lunches stuff. But anyway, he switched to like eating like the school lunches, so he always would eat in the cafeteria, and he would just eat with like those popular kids and stuff. So he just kind of ditched me and the rest of our friend group, and like without him, I just kind of felt like so alone in this friend group. Like I kind of just was like, I don't know. I didn't feel like I related to them as much, and I felt like I always like I think I was just being paranoid and stuff, but I always felt like they were like making fun of me like and stuff, and like saying things about me behind my back, and I just like I grew to hate them. And like so basically like these so-called friends I had, I was like I hate my friends basically. So I just kind of started to isolate myself, and I started to just like I stopped eating lunch. Like I wouldn't eat lunch anymore, and I would just go to the library during lunch, and I would just do homework, or if even that, I would just like maybe read, or I would just sleep, whatever. But this is where things started to go really downhill. Um, so this was where I began to have my psychotic episode. And basically, all these voices would come in my head, and they would berate me for not doing things, good enough. Like I'm not studying hard enough, I'm not doing my homework, or whatever, or not doing it well enough. And I was raised in a Christian household, and I was going to like a Catholic school, and we had to take religion classes, and you know I guess you could say like I kind of was indoctrinated. I don't want to say indoctrinated, but I felt like I was very religious at the time, and I was like, I need to be a good Christian. I need to do this, and then like so obviously in Christianity they teach you that you need to love people and such, like stuff. But at the time, like I told you, I hated my friends, and I also just began to hate everyone at my school, and I just hated everybody. So then like I was always being like all these voices were berating me, being like, "Oh my gosh, well you can't hate these people. You have to love them. They're God's creations, and you know, do you want to go to hell? What are you thinking?" And I was just like, always stressed out about things, and I felt like, I was a terrible person, evil, and all these things, and I became like really quiet. Like I never really talked anymore. Like I didn't really speak unless I was spoken to, if even that. And I was just my mind was like a battleground because like these voices would always like be berating me and stuff and telling me stuff, but then also at the same time there were other voices and they would be arguing with each other about how things should go, and it was like I never knew what to do and I felt like I didn't have control over my actions. I felt like these voices were in control of me and not me. It was all very like trippy and I didn't know what the heck was going on. I didn't know what I like lost my self identity, and it was very difficult. And I just felt like my head was crazy. There's always these thoughts in my head and I couldn't turn it off. And you know I didn't have anything like visual hallucinations, but these auditory hallucinations were pretty bad. And yeah, so eventually my mom kind of caught on to the fact that like something was up. Because like I said, I was talking a lot less than I used to. I was very quiet, even with my family. And also my grades were slipping a bit. Like they weren't as bad as they were gonna get eventually, but they were pretty bad, or they were bad for me, you know, as at the time. And I just kind of had like stopped caring about school. I was like, oh, I can't take this anymore. This is just so annoying. I cared a lot more then than I did later, but I was not as studious as I used to be, and I wasn't even that studious back when I was taking that stuff more seriously. So yeah, my mom kind of noticed like, yeah, something's wrong with Ghost. I probably should check on him or something. So she was just like, hey, so are you okay? And I was always really hesitant. I felt like something was off, but I didn't want to tell anybody because I was like, I felt like my mom wouldn't take me seriously, and I felt like she'd just think I was making it up for attention, or like she'd just be like, "Oh, everybody goes through that" or something. And I just kind of thought like, either everybody goes through this, and I'm just being like a baby about it, or it's just like, it's all in my head, and it's. I mean, I guess it was in my head, but you know what I mean. Like I meant like I'm being over dramatic. That's kind of what I was thinking. But anyway, since she noticed and she asked me, I was just kind of like, I might as well like tell her. I didn't tell her everything. I didn't tell her about the voices and all that. I was kind of like, yeah, I'm not feeling good, mom. I'm like really sad and all this stuff. And she was like, okay, well I'm gonna take you to like the pediatrician, and maybe like she can tell us something about like what to do about this, and maybe like do some blood work and stuff about like maybe like it's something biological or whatever, a thyroid problem, or there's a lot of things that can happen to your body and it'll make you depressed. So we went to the pediatrician and I talked to the pediatrician, told her about my symptoms. My mom went out of the room for that, so I could talk to her in private. And she was like, yeah, no, this doesn't sound normal. And she did the blood work still, and the only thing like everything looked normal except that it said that I was like slightly anorexic or something, because I was only eating like one meal a day at the time. I wasn't eating lunch, I wasn't eating breakfast. So my mom was like, oh, why are you anorexic? It says you're kind of malnourished or whatever. I was like, oh, I don't eat anything ever. And yeah, I lost a lot of weight. So but yeah, anyway, so the pediatrician was like, yeah, you should go take him to like a psychiatrist or something. So my mom took me to some psychiatrist, and he was pretty bad. Like, so I told him about all these symptoms, and he was just like he was freaking out. Well, not really. He wasn't like freaking out as in like, oh my gosh, but he was like making all these expressions at me. Like he looked shocked and disgusted, even. Like I felt like, aren't you a psychiatrist? Aren't you supposed to see this stuff on a regular basis? I don't know why. I guess like maybe my mom prefaced like me, like he did talk to her maybe a bit, and my mom didn't know anything about the voice stuff and all that. So maybe he just expected me to have a typical like depression case, but then it was like a bit more than he expected. So he just goes like, what? Um, but yeah, he wasn't. He was kind of a jerk. Um, and he was like, well, yeah, you probably gonna need some serious medication for these issues and stuff. And yeah, he told my mom, and she was like, "Oh my gosh," she was all worried and stuff about me. But like we stopped seeing that dude because he was no good. I think we maybe saw like one or two other people, but then we found like this one lady who like specialized in like schizophrenia, psychosis, that sort of thing. Because he was like, yeah, I think he might have schizophrenia or something. So we went to go see her, and this is the same psychiatrist I see to this day. And she was like, she talked to me and stuff, and she's like, yeah, you might have schizophrenia or something, or you might have schizoaffective disorder. But in the end, she was like, "Oh no, I don't think that you checked off enough of the boxes, and also I think you're like a little too young to have schizophrenia or whatever." So she was like she gave me my official diagnosis, which was major depressive disorder with psychotic features, and she put me on Abilify, which was like the first medicine I ever was on. And she's like, "Okay, so this should help with it was an antipsychotic, so it's supposed to help with the voices, and it was supposed to help with." It was also like supposed to be able to function as an antidepressant as well, apparently, but it never really. I didn't. It never helped me in regards to my depressive symptoms. And eventually, she put me on some other medications and all sorts of. I've been on a bunch of different medications, but anyway, the Abilify did help though, at least in regards to the psychotic symptoms. The voices went away, and my head was a lot clearer, and I was just like, it was a lot better. So that was good. And then I got my diagnosis around like April of 2018 and stuff. So I was still really depressed about stuff because I still hated everybody at school, and I still was like didn't feel that motivated and that sort of thing. But at the end of the year, the bright side is that yeah, the psychosis symptoms ceased. So yeah, but I was kind of in for a very tough time in the next year. And originally, I wasn't even going to go back to my high school. I was going to like transfer to a public school because I was like, I don't even care about like schoolwork as much as I used to. Like, I'm not. Why should my mom be paying this money to send me this private school? I'm not even putting like that much effort in. And like, I was also like, I want a fresh start. I think I should go to this public school or whatever. And like, we had registered. I even gave away like my school uniforms to my cousin because he was coming to the same high school I was. And yeah, fun fact about Louisiana, all high schools they require students to wear school uniforms. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, like everything was ready. I was gonna go to this school, but like I backed out at the last minute because I was just anxious about it. I was like, I'm just gonna stay with the hell I know. I was too nervous to go through with the whole switching to the public school. So I ended up staying at the same like Catholic school I was going to, but I don't necessarily regret that decision, but maybe it would have been a better idea to go to the public school. But things didn't really get better. Things got a lot worse the next year. So yeah, and I'll get into that in the next part. So I'll see you guys all in the next video. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, bye.